Hello, everyone. My name is Phil Giorgiani with the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, and I wanted to thank you all for joining our special Google Hangout today, LGBTBE Industry Cluster Google Hangout, Pursuing Multicultural Marketing Opportunities with Kellogg. We're going to start in just a few minutes with Debra Quade, our Supplier Diversity Manager at Kellogg, and Christopher Rivera, who's our Director of Multicultural Marketing at Kellogg. Before we get started, first of all, I just wanted to welcome everyone and just give everyone kind of a little rehash about what the industry clusters are and what we hope to accomplish with them. So as you all know, we as the NGLCC certify LGBTBEs across all commodity areas, and the industry clusters are really an opportunity for us to break the LGBTBEs down into groups based on similar commodity areas and to give them a chance to connect with each other based on similar commodity groups to explore best practices in the area, to explore potential teaming opportunities, and to connect more deeply with procurement and buying representatives within NGLCC Corporate Partners beyond the normal supplier diversity channels, and connecting them based on a really specific area of business to share those best practices. And just as a reminder, if you haven't had a chance to review the conference agenda, the industry clusters will be meeting on Thursday during the conference after the expo at 4:15, and you can see that information on the conference agenda. This group specifically, as you know, is the Advertising, Communications, and Marketing group. We'll be meeting on site as well, and some information will be coming out prior to the conference based on the agenda and what we're going to be working on site when we meet. But this is to kind of give you a little bit of a taste of what we hope to accomplish with the industry cluster groups this year. We're currently, we have Debra Quade with us, so we're just waiting on one more panelist to join. We have, as you can see, there's a chat bar on the side. So you can feel free to ask questions as we go along, but we're gonna we have kind of a packed agenda, and there'll be time at the end for Q&A, but we also want this to be as participatory as possible. So I think while we're waiting for Christopher to join us, as I said, I wanted to go ahead and introduce. Oh, I think.
Yes, Christopher's arrived.
Christopher's arriving.
How are you? Thanks for waiting. Thanks for being here today.
Hi, Christopher.
Hello. Hola.
Hola. Okay, so I was just kind of giving everyone an overview of what we're going to be discussing today, and a little bit of an overview of what we're trying to accomplish with the industry clusters in general. So I guess I'm going to move forward now with introducing both of you, and if you guys at Kellogg just want to kind of give a little bit of an overview about your roles, and then we'll move over kind of doing more of a deep dive into the multicultural marketing segment. And the opportunities that are there. So I think a lot of you probably know Debra, especially those who have attended our conference before. But Debra, if you want to talk a little bit about your role at Kellogg, just for some of our newer suppliers.
Absolutely. As Philip mentioned, my job title is Supplier Diversity Manager on behalf of Kellogg Company. So in that role, I'm actively involved in the diversity business community, trying to ensure that we are locating the best suppliers to align with Kellogg and assist us in making sure that we get to market with the best possible product. So we realize that there are a lot of suppliers we haven't met out there, so you'll see me at all of the NGLCC events. Some of you that might also have a dual certification with WBAC or NMSDC might have seen the Kellogg booths there. We are really trying to be actively involved and ensure that we're walking the walk, not just talking the talk, when we say we want to have a supply base that represents our consumers and our communities.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Debra.
All right, I'm Christopher Rivera. Hope everyone's doing great. Thank you so much again for being here today. Our group is in charge of our multicultural efforts here at Kellogg's, and that spans anything from communications that you might see on television, local market activation and participation, our commercial initiatives as well throughout the calendar year. And when I say multicultural, it really means all diversity. There are some areas, quite frankly, that we're doing more in, where we're a little bit stronger, we have more experience. And there's other areas where we're kind of just getting started, and we're looking to partners that have expertise and leadership with diverse segments. And you know, that's kind of why we're here today, is to understand what some of those opportunities are, and then to kind of educate folks on how to best do business with us, how do we do business together, so that we can mutually grow and take advantage of these wonderful opportunities to engage that exist in the community.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So, yeah, to kind of move forward, so the LGBTBEs who are joining us are from our Advertising, Marketing, and Communications group, and we discussed a little bit about you know, the way that multicultural marketing opportunities kind of work within Kellogg, and they're a little bit different, I think, than what some of our suppliers may be used to in terms of the way the RFP process operates. So I was hoping, Christopher, if we can kind of go over that again and you know, kind of you know, illuminate for the suppliers the best way that they can pursue those opportunities.
Yeah, I think there's kind of two parallel paths. First, there's the path of procurement and just ensuring that you're in our system, that Kellogg's is aware, because when those opportunities do come up, or when marketers do ask procurement, hey, we need expertise in any area, procurement's going to be probably the first group that they go to, and then if they don't have a large group within procurement, what they'll do, procurement usually goes and they start to investigate and, you know, kind of hit the market a little bit, start to ask around. So that's always a really great place to start, because you will be first in line and included on all RFPs. In parallel to that, what we like to see, and myself in particular, is when folks just reach out to us organically, whether it's an email or a phone call or a link to some of their work that they've done in the past. That's always great. The other piece that we'd like to encourage folks to do is, if there's an opportunity that's already existing, there's a business opportunity that you guys are reaching out and saying, hey, there's a chance for us to mutually engage with this diverse community. We have expertise. We can help you do it. We'd love to take your products and introduce them to this audience, or to build even greater affinities with this audience. Here's how we do that. And that opportunity could be a large opportunity, could be a medium-sized opportunity, could be several small opportunities. It really depends on the expertise that that vendor brings to the table. So that is kind of the criteria to get noticed, to make sure that when there is an RFP, you are in the consideration loop.
Yeah, and I think that's really critical. I think a lot of you know, what our suppliers are used to is simply the typical, you know, building relationships with supplier diversity and procurement official officers, and then waiting for those RFPs to come along and responding. And I think a lot of them would probably, you know, appreciate the opportunity to be a little bit more proactive and to be, you know, put forward a solution of their own. We talked a little bit previously about the importance of successful suppliers coming forward with a connection to their community and retailers. So I was hoping maybe we can round out that point a little bit more,
Sure.
and kind of maybe you can talk a little bit about what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
How.
Absolutely. For sure, absolutely. I'll kind of piggyback a little bit on what you're saying is, the proactiveness, or even you could say we want folks to be a little bit aggressive in terms of showing us these opportunities, letting us know that there's growth opportunities, and the key word is always going to be growth for companies nowadays. There are so many, especially here, I'll speak for Kellogg's in general, many of our categories are either flat or also declining, and that's a result of consumer groups that are moving out of the category. They're aging. Our bread and butter used to be boomers, and they're aging out of the category. Kind of what's new now and what is growing is multicultural and diverse set. America's never been more diverse than it is today. America's never been more ready for just an embracement of diversity than today, and many companies are actively looking and they're searching. But at the same time, that business opportunity has to be identified. It can't simply be, well, I met this person and they're really nice to work with, and maybe we'll do something with them. That something never comes up. It's got to be something linked back to the business. They can go back to their colleagues and say, look, we can make money with this opportunity. Or there's a retailer in a market in Los Angeles that has relationships with the community. There's these community events. We tie into the community event. There's a parade, or there's a celebration, or it's held at this park. Several of our stores are in and around the area. We always participate. And as part of participating, we allow our partners to display in-store their products, or to have certain features or ads or displays, etc., in the store by participating. And those are going to be the critical linkages, is understanding which are the retailers that are on board, working with them, and then bringing that opportunity pretty much on a silver platter to companies like Kellogg, saying, in LA, I have a chain of accounts, has 30 accounts. This is the opportunity to engage. This is the audience size. Here's the offer. What can we do? That's much more attractive than saying, here's my services that I can do, which that's great, but I'd really like to put that into action. So I think the key thing for folks listening is, how do I move this into action? How do I propose something that is actionable to the decision maker that's at X company, in this case Kellogg's? How do I get them to really think about the business opportunity in an actionable way?
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point for suppliers to consider. So essentially, you're looking for a really soup to nuts, turnkey, ready-made solution, an event that's kind of the entire piece of the puzzle, or the entire puzzle, how you're going to deliver. I also think for those of you watching, this is where I think it really comes into play, those strong local networks and the relationships you've built through your affiliate chamber memberships. A lot of you are going to have, a lot of our suppliers have really strong relationships with local vendors and community organizations which may not be certified LGBTBEs because they're not operating on that scale, or they're not, they don't qualify for certification, or they're nonprofits. And this is, opportunities like these are really ways to kind of engage those networks in maybe a different way, and in kind of a powerful way. So I guess so you're operating across obviously multiple segments. So I guess, and I know that there's been, but from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, there's been you've experienced a lot of success in the Hispanic and other markets. So how would you say, how prepared or how eager is your unit right now to kind of pursue the LGBT market?
That's a great question, and I think we have a lot of opportunity with certain segments. Right now the focus is around Hispanic. In the past we had focus around African American, sometimes Hispanic, depending on who was in charge. And then most recently, I think with LGBT, we do have some activity, some engagement. We have an employee research group that does events, community, but I don't think we do enough. And I also don't think that we have a true size of the prize in terms of the LGBT community and also allies of the LGBT community and what that represents. And if they knew that our brands were working with these communities, I feel like there's an opportunity there for us. So to answer your question, we're just at the beginning steps in terms of integrating communications into our marketing. We've dabbled, I guess, and our ERGs have done a much better job. But again, it all comes back to that business opportunity, because it's the same thing with Hispanic or with Asian American or LGBT. It's all about what's that business opportunity that I've identified, and then within that consumer segment, what is that need that my product is uniquely positioned to satisfy? Then I think the expertise of the folks on the phone come into play, where they know this community. They're able to say, yes, this need is definitely there. This is how you want to connect in a relevant way to the LGBT community. Here's how you start. And for me, this is why we're on the call today. We're reaching out to the community. We're trying to reach out with our ERG groups as well. This is important to us, and this is not something that is kind of a fad or a trend. It's something that we need to get right. It's the new face of America, and America has a new look, the new multicultural, diverse, multi-ethnic mainstream is what really exists now. And marketers have got to start getting very comfortable dealing with different segments, and also understanding how can I appeal to them with an insight that may be unique to this group, but I can apply it back to the masses and increase my total market, my total audience efforts.
Yeah, it's exciting, and it is exciting that you're responding to that change, and it's exciting because there's opportunity for the businesses we represent. So
I'll add something there. Your businesses are uniquely positioned as the experts.
Mm-hmm. And
you need to remember, in addition to being aggressive, in addition to being actionable and bringing an actionable opportunity, remembering that when they sit in the room, they're the experts on this topic. Not the market that they're sitting across from probably is not going to be the expert, and that's something that they can really leverage.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, and we talked a little bit about our suppliers have knowledge of the community, and it's important that they have that knowledge, and it's important that they have that research. And then I think when they come to you, it's about showing how they're going to translate that into a commercial message and into commercial penetration.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah, that is true. That our suppliers are very well positioned. So, kind of pivoting a little, I guess, if would you be able to give maybe an example, and whether it's in the LGBT community, which I know is more on the horizon, or maybe in a different segment of maybe a vendor that kind of showed that way of translating their insight into a powerful commercial message in an effective way.
Yeah, I'll give you guys a couple of examples. First is from Hispanic, and the second will be LGBT. So the first one from Hispanic, we work with a digital agency that creates editorial content on a platform that we just developed and launched in April. And it's a Spanish-focused platform called Días Grandiosos. There's been a lot of excitement with this in terms of the engagement with our community. And recently for the World Cup, Walmart essentially said, hey, we love your site. We love the insights that you have, the way that you're able to tell stories, because it's all editorial content. Could you build something for us on Twitter so that we can engage with the World Cup community? And we did. and they liked it quite a bit, but we didn't have the media dollars to put behind it. So they said, well, okay, we don't have the media dollars to put behind it in Spanish, but what we can do is put it on our site organically. We'll put it on our Facebook and on our Twitter and let it live organically. And you know, Walmart, because obviously the world's biggest business, #1 retailer. This is cutting edge for the company in terms of content. They've never been able to do this for any of the brands with our customer. And so the example there is really just being able to be the expert, bringing that excellence to the business, to not really make any compromises and bring that to the customer. The customer will recognize that excellence and they will partner with us on that. And so as we look at partners for LGBT, we really want to work with the best. We want to push the envelope. We want to really understand, this is what great looks like, as opposed to just playing in the game. We don't want to just play in the game. We want to be the best. And so that was a really great example in terms of a company that we've been working with, that we've partnered with, that we've had success with, and that we just start to expand that success and commercialize that success, because at the end of the day, it's all about commercialization for us. Getting the communication pieces right, but partnering with a retailer so that there's that commercial return. The second piece, we may have talked about this, I think on our initial call, but Lucky Charms did a really wonderful spot digitally, Lucky to Be, with the hashtag, and it was just a fantastic digital communication that engaged with the community with a very relevant message brought to you by this brand, but it wasn't really all about the brand, but it set volumes about the tone and the personality of who this brand, Lucky Charms, is, and as a company, what General Mills is doing to engage with the LGBT community. So I think that to me, that was one spot that I was very envious of in terms of their creativity, and then also the authenticity that they delivered that message with. Were you familiar with that, or at that spot, or?
I was not, but I'd be very interested to see it, and maybe that's something that we can share also with the notes after the call.
Yeah, absolutely. I think folks will really like it. The message was extremely positive, and just tactically the way that the company executed it, I think was just really cutting edge, was really new thinking. So they must have had some really great partners with them on that one. So that's one that we would really like to learn from.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I have more questions in discussion. I also would encourage anyone who's viewing, if you want to use the chat bar on the side to ask any questions, you're more than welcome to, and we can respond to those as well. So kind of drilling down into specifics of the tactics that are most effective. What's kind of the best way for companies to kind of demonstrate that they're innovative? I know you talked a little bit about the Twitter aspect with the World Cup, to demonstrate that their adroitness with social media, and how important is that to their ability to put forward an attractive solution.
Yeah, I think we're looking for fresh ideas. We're a cereal company at heart. Obviously, we have snacks and other components frozen. But at the end of the day, when people think of Kellogg's, they think of cereal. And in a lot of instances, our communications, I think, have gotten a little bit formulaic. Some of our insights are not as applicable. The market has moved, and we need to move with it. We need to look for insights and excitement and cutting-edge ideas from different segments of culture. If you look at electronic dance music, it was nowhere on, well, it wasn't really anywhere on the map. Maybe even 2 years ago. And you see them winning, Daft Punk winning, Grammy. You see more integration even with 7-Up in terms of what they're using to connect with people, and that's global. And yet somehow that's just getting here, but it's been around the world for forever. Same thing with multicultural and Hispanic and taste influences, food influences. Mexican food right now is not even really Mexican food. It's really like pizza. It's like American food kind of. But yet, I think that these ideas we've got. Bring forth these cutting-edge ideas, pitch the cutting-edge ideas, because whether it's Kellogg's or another company, they are very, very welcome because they're looking for ways to break through and to stay current and relevant.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense, and I think a lot of our, there's always a hunger among the LGBTBEs to, especially among this group, to stay current on those trends and to really look for ways that they can demonstrate, the extent to that they can bring that value to potential customers.
The other caveat to that is if there are industry drivers, like right now convenience, on the go, the more that things can, products can be handheld, whether it's a cup with snacks or it's a microwaved Special K egg and sausage biscuit or an Eggo egg and sausage biscuit, what have you. If those trends align with the behaviors of this particular segment, if that's something where that alignment of that insight is really meeting the need of this segment, and LGBT, bring that expertise forward. But that takes a little bit of engagement and understanding. Where is this category? What's important to the category right now? And partnering and and bringing those ideas to the table. So that's one way of kind of just making sure that you have your finger on the pulse of the industry that you're talking to, so that that you have a really powerful message to them. There's a reason why they need to be listening to you that's directly applicable to their business.
So, and then I guess it might be helpful in terms of, so we talked a little bit about the Be Lucky. Are there any other, is there kind of if some of our suppliers are looking for inspiration, is there other ways they can?
Honey did a really wonderful spot, and this is probably a little bit more likely scenario for Kellogg. So they did an advertisement where they featured families, and they said, "This is what's wholesome." So, honey graham crackers. This is what's wholesome.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so they had different families featured, and they're saying, you could be single dad, you could be two same-sex parents, you could be a multicultural family, you could be somebody with tattoos. Oh my God. And feature that in the spot, and they're saying this is really what's wholesome. This is America. This is Americana these days, and by featuring that, they did it in a very subtle way, and I think that was very smart. It did cause a lot of discussion, a little bit of controversy, but they were ready and they backed it up with with their views, and obviously what they're saying is. We want everybody to buy our product. We don't want to be, only exclusive of this one segment, or, we want inclusive. And I think that's the key message. We want to be inclusive. So, Honey Maid, that spot to me is another fantastic spot that just incorporated diversity. So you had LGBT diversity, you had ethnic diversity, you had just family situations. I'm a single dad, or a single mom, and that's the reality of the U.S. today. And folks are happy that way too. Just because you're single and you're a dad or a parent doesn't mean that you can't be amazingly happy and wholesome at the same time. So it was a really beautiful message.
Yeah, I'm sure very effective too. I know that kind of made the rounds on a lot of the social media I saw. So I think that's important to consider.
And the thing is, I think we've got to push the envelope. I mean, if you do not risk anything, there's no great reward. There was no guarantee that these spots would be a hit, or
Mhm.
and I just think that as long as we approach it with authenticity, that it's not contrived, and that's where we really lean on the expertise of folks that, whether they are an agency that is really understands the LGBT community, that has prior experience, keep us in that area that we want to be, which is going to be authentic, which is going to be which is going to resonate with this audience in a way that feels real.
Mhm.
So, I just want to encourage folks on the phone that to take some of those risks, um, because I do feel like there's a reward, and that helps to cut through all the rest of the media that's online or that's on TV today.
Absolutely. Um, so I guess just in general, just be mindful of time. Do you any other kind of general advice for our LGBTBEs who are looking to be helpful in this market? And is there any or one of the other things I wanted to ask is should they kind of be thinking about the Kellogg brand as a whole? Should they be looking at different products and thinking about how can I be successful? Does this particular product inspire me and think of it that way, or be more cognizant of the holistic brand?
I think, as I think about us, I think we need to be cognizant of the holistic brands in my mind.
Okay.
We do have a few brands where we have some organic, I think, engagement, but the opportunity to get is going to have to be multiple brands, and really thinking about it from a portfolio perspective. Obviously, at Kellogg's, we will not be able to support every single one of our brands in our portfolio, but the brands that we are supporting, I would suggest if you see an ad or if there is media behind that particular brand, more than likely it would be a brand that would be large enough and growing where we're saying, hey, we want to invest in this brand. So additional segments that we can incorporate, or maybe this insight can be applied to them to grow our brand, absolutely. So, I mean, that's kind of my view of it. Starting big, kind of focusing on our portfolio brands that we want to take this message to.
Fantastic.
You asked one other question in terms of other kind of advice. I would say know your data, know your statistics, understand what you're bringing to the table, understand the size of your community, whether it's the at-large LGBT community and allies, or the LGBT community and allies in the Houston market. Understand your network, be able to talk through those numbers, present those numbers up front. It obviously builds, credibility, shows that you know what you're talking about, but then we're able to quantify the opportunity in a little easier way. If we want to target via geo-targeting or mobile targeting, or connect that to some of our existing databases, that's also becomes very powerful, because then you're kind of talking apples and apples in that area. So that would be I guess one of my final kind of thoughts is understand your data, know your data, leverage it as you're building that pitch, as you're building that story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really important point to be, because you want to, we talked about some of the kind of, I guess for lack of a better word, softer attributes like authenticity and connection to the community and feeling that inspiration, but obviously you want that to be backed up with some kind of data, something that really gives it a harder foundation as well. So that's a good point. I'm glad we mentioned that. Fantastic. Well, I'm sorry, were you going to say something, Chris?
No, I mean, was that, if there's any other questions that you had, I think maybe there was one on the integration of messaging in terms of communication.
I'm sorry, you broke up a little.
No, no problem. I was going to ask you if you were still interested in how can LGBTBEs translate knowledge into a commercial message.
Yeah, if there's any other specifics you can share on that, that would be great.
Yeah, specifically, I think that this goes around bringing that knowledge. It's kind of tacit knowledge for the marketers, the typical marketer, but where you guys bring an abundance of knowledge and packaging that in a way that says, here's an insight that aligns with, that speaks to this community and we feel aligns with your brand or your portfolio of brands. And bringing that almost as, hey, let me pitch this, get some food for thought, let me give you something to think about. That's also been effective as well when I think about other pitches that folks have made to me, and then they attach it to their audience numbers. Did you know, blah, 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 and then there's this particular insight. You know, it's very compelling. Insights around, you know, multiculturals, you know, Hispanics and African Americans tend to be more prone to diabetes, more prone to being overweight. And, you know, us as a food company, those are definitely areas that we have sensitivity around, we want to focus on as well, and reach out. So, you know, as that applies to LGBTs, then I think that, you know, bringing that knowledge, sharing that knowledge, because I'll tell you, there's definitely I think a gap at this point in terms of understanding what are these insights and how we can leverage them in a commercial message.
That's good. That's pretty powerful. I think that's great insight for companies that are preparing to approach Kellogg or to pursue you know, these types of opportunities for large companies. Fantastic. Well, thank you both so much. Again, for those of you listening, I just wanted to remind you that if you haven't signed up yet, our Business and Leadership Conference is July 29th to August 1st at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. If you visit nglcc.org/events, you can register. Unfortunately, our hotel block at Caesars Palace is sold out, but there's other hotels in Vegas, I've heard, that are specifically, you might want to look at Paris and the Bellagio, and the industry clusters, including this group, will be meeting on Thursday during the meeting after the expo and the matchmakers. Christopher and Debra, thank you again. This was a really great discussion. Thank you for all the great insider information. This is going to be available also on your YouTube channel afterwards, so we'll share that as well for those who weren't able to join us during the live broadcast. And I look forward to seeing you all in Vegas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.